Thanks for that introduction, Christina, and good morning, everyone. It's great to be here with you today. I don't go to a lot of conferences, but I'm really pleased that we're here. I think the timing is everything. Our friends at TG6 Metals, I think, are just about to kick off their AGM today, and they've obviously been a bit of the talk of the conference so far. So I'll talk about, first of all, our company and where we fit into things. I'd like to start with this slide. That's a photo of some core, which if you come to our booth, you can see the real McCoy. It's from our exploration in Tasmania, where we've been drilling at one of our projects, and that was running at 152 grams per tonne gold. So anyone who says there's no gold in Tasmania doesn't know what they're talking about. There's our disclaimer. The company was listed in 2021. Really, the focus since the company listed has been on exploration in Tasmania, chasing Victorian-style high-grade gold. But it's also, in the process, been acquiring, since it listed, a substantial portfolio of ground in Western Australia. And obviously, the focus of that ground has been towards lithium, but there's also gold potential there. So at the moment, Western Australia, we've got about 15 granted exploration licences over 4 main project areas. Up in the Pilbara, we've got ground at Mount Dove, where we've been doing a little bit of work, and I'll talk about that in a moment. And in the Yilgarn, we've got ground which sits close to the Forrestania Greenstone Belt and Mount Holland. And also we've got ground at Lake Johnson, which is obviously the hottest spot in town at the moment. Just a bit of a company snapshot. We have got 136 million shares on issue at the moment. Share price today is about 8.6. Gives us market cap around 11-12 million and an enterprise value of about 9. The board's made up of some very competent people. At the bottom we've got John Ford, who's manages the Lau Resources Fund. He's a geologist and lawyer, and Lau, you'll see there, sits as one of our major investors with 3.7%. Our major shareholder is a fellow out of Melbourne called Colin Burke. He's associated with our chairman, Clive Duncan, who's spent most of his career working in Bunnings. So this is his first CEO, chairman's role for a company of our size, so he's enjoying the ride. Sam Garrett, who's our technical director, has got a number of discoveries to his name, and certainly has spent a lot of time in Tasmania as a younger geologist, so he certainly knows that part of the world very well. I joined the board earlier this year and have really have been brought on to help manage the West Australian side of the business, as well as what's going on in Tasmania. So our Western Australian lithium strategy really has been about securing some ground holdings close to the large lithium pegmatite deposits which exist here. To date, we've just been applying sort of the basic fundamental geological processes of soil sampling, rock chip sampling, mapping, all of those things, and that process is starting to generate some targets for us, particularly at Mount Dove and Lake Johnson. And our exploration activities at Forrestania are just about to kick off in the new year. With the activity that's going on in Lake Johnson, we're starting to fast track most of our exploration activities in the lithium. So we expect to be able to get out and do some air core drilling on some of our targets as soon as possible in the new year, once we've got the permitting completed. And we're also looking at acquiring other assets in this space, so hopefully we'll be successful in that going forward. So just to give you the Yilgarn story, we've got, as I said, 2 projects, Forrestania, Lake Johnson. Our ground's just to the east of Mount Holland. We're about within 7 kilometres of the pit at the Mount Holland project. That ground we've got on the east side, there is greenstone undercover that's been mapped or intersected with a very limited amount of earlier drilling, so we think there's lots of potential there. And Lake Johnson, I don't need to tell you how much excitement's been created through TG Metals discovery there. We're 7 kilometres east of them. You'll see on that slide there in yellow, there's 3 tenements there which are held by Rio Tinto. And if you're familiar with what Rio Tinto are doing, they've just signed up a substantial joint venture with Charger Metals on their ground. So we're surrounded basically by TG6 and Rio Tinto at the moment. We've also got some ground up there at the north end of that greenstone belt, close to Mount Day. So I think there's going to be a lot more discoveries of lithium in that area in the coming months. This is just a zoom in. The tenements we've got were only granted in July this year, so we've only been out in the ground once since it was granted, and we had a brief reconnaissance exercise out there, and we were fortunate. You can see there, here you can see we mapped some pegmatites on the ground. We've got a team back there at the moment doing mapping and sampling. They basically started at the north here and they're working their way down the the western side of that tenement there. Obviously this ultramafic magnetic unit through here seems to be a pretty important sort of characteristic of what's going on. To the north up here is Jägermeister, which is not shown on this slide, but that's TG Metals large soil anomaly on the north side of that structure. That comes down through here, so we're seeing pegmatites also on the north side of that structure, and we'll also be having a look down the end of at this fold nose here. So over the next week or so we'll be providing an update to the market on how that project has gone as far as whether we've mapped any further pegmatites, and certainly the samples will then go into the lab, and we'll be hopefully reporting the results of that soil sampling program as soon as we possibly can. Forrestania, as I said, not a lot of work's been done there. Interesting, a drill hole in this part of the tenement was drilled a few years ago, intersected 8 metres of pegmatites at the bottom of the hole. Assayed for lithium, not much lithium in the assays, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything because these pegmatites are zoned, have zonation through them. So the fact that we're hitting pegmatites out here in what we consider as a stringer of the greenstone belt to the east of the main Forrestania greenstone belt is quite significant. So our plan is to get out there and do some soil sampling once we've finished the current program on Lake Johnson. We've certainly been picking up additional ground there. You can see these tenements here were applied for a couple of weeks ago. That one's been in application for a while. We've just got to sort out some policies with the government on that one. So, we'll certainly be putting more effort into Forrestania in the new year. Up in the north, Mount Dove, that's been a very topical area, of course, with Wildcat's discovery of large pegmatites on the Tabba Tabba Shear at the namesake mine. They've also got, at a place called Bolt Cutters East, a lithium anomaly out in the granites, and that's shown up here. So our ground is down here along strike to the west from Wildcat's ground. We've got the Hemi gold mine to the north west of us. We've got Wodgina and Pilangura lithium mines to the south and southeast of us, and we've got Tabba Tabba up to the northeast. So we're really surrounded by elephants, if you would describe them as that, as far as projects are concerned, whether they're gold or lithium. Our ground has got transported soils over the top of it, very little outcrop. We have done a soil sampling program, and the results of that were announced earlier this week. Sorry, wrong way. So the soil sampling came up with some interesting results. We got about 7 coherent anomalies where we've got lithium plus supporting minerals, pathfinder minerals such as cesium, rubidium. Some pegmatites were mapped up here, running at over 0.1% rubidium, so that's quite encouraging. Anomalous in lithium as well. So our plans now is to follow that up with some gravity surveys and air core surveys as soon as we can get permitting in the new year up there. So large area. We've got an application as you can see there to the east, which is waiting to be granted. So once that's granted, then we'll certainly have a much larger footprint to go and explore in those granites. And as I said, it's covered by soil, not much outcrop. We've mapped some pegmatites in where it does poke its nose out, so we're really quite encouraged with the potential of this area. And for those who sort of are thinking about exploration for lithium in the granites, as I said, Wildcat's got that ground with their bolt cutter east lithium target there. They haven't drill tested that as far as I understand, but also just to the north of us, Industrial Minerals have got their Pipingara project, which is that large pegmatite mapped in the middle of a granite where that open pit is. So they're really having some exciting times as well. So it's certainly an exciting area. In the last couple of minutes, I'll just talk about northeast Tasmania. As I said, the company floated pretty much on exploration in that area. As you know, a couple of years ago, Fosterville got everyone excited when we had the Swan Zone jewellery box of gold discovered there, and Fosterville became the cheapest gold producer in the world. So here we have northeast Tasmania, geologically an extension of the Western Origin geological feature. So it's an extension of the Victorian goldfields. It has had not an ounce of exploration effort in comparison to Victoria. You can see there in the last 12 months over $117 million spent on gold exploration in Victoria, and in Tasmania $8 million was spent, and of that this company spent half of it. So we're certainly looking at areas which are untested and in our view, have great potential. So most of our effort to date has been at an area called Golden Ridge, shown here, but we've also done drilling at Portland and Warrantina. Warrantina's here, and we're currently drilling at Fire Tower. Golden Ridge, it's an 8-kilometre granite intrusive. Best analogy is King of the Hills, Red 5's project here in Western Australia. So we've been drilling at 3 locations there, Brilliant, Trafalgar, and along the contact with some RC drilling, which has come up with mineralisation. Trafalgar's been our best results to date. We've had multiple intersections over a 400-metre strike length, multiple zones over 100 grams per tonne gold, and you can see some of the core there. This is an initial vein model we've developed, and some of those yellow boxes just highlight anything which is over 100 grams per tonne there. And just briefly, when you look at that as a scale, we've got to the west, the Brilliant area where we've drilled, and we've got mineralisation there. At Trafalgar on the east, lots of high-grade hits. You can see some of those numbers where we did some RC drilling in between. And the distance between Brilliant and Trafalgar is 2.5 k's, which is about the same length as the Kalgoorlie Super Pit. So this is a big system. There's about 8 kilometres of that contact which needs to be explored. And we're really quite excited about the potential endowment that's sitting here at Golden Ridge. So that's just a brief final wrap-up of what we've got planned for the next few months. You can see we've been doing a lot of work in Tasmania. The focus will shift onto drilling in Western Australia over the next few months. And then hopefully with some success, we'll be really hitting WA hard later next year. Thanks for your time today. If you've got any questions or would like to come and see us at our booth, I'd be happy to have a chat later on. Thanks, Christina.